Hey, everybody, this is Jimmy. Welcome to another episode of our Meet the Candidates series for Cambridge School Committee and Cambridge City Council. Right now, I have a guest for you this morning, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Harding, who has actually served one term on the Cambridge School Committee. He is running for another term. Please welcome to the show our Meet the Candidates series, the one and only Mr. Richard Harding. Good morning, Richard. How are you today?
Jimmy, it's always good to be with you. I would just say that it's a pleasure to be in the greatest city on earth today, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I look forward to our conversation. And just to be clear,
Great.
I'm a former school committee member, but I have not served in the last 5 years. So just want to be clear about that.
Okay, great. Now, tell us a little bit about your background, Richard. You grew up in Cambridge, is that correct?
So born and raised in Cambridge, went through the public schools, as did most of my family, and all of my friends mostly went through the public schools. I also am the parent of a daughter who graduated in 2015. I currently work at the Public Health Department as the Manager of Community Affairs and BIPOC Men's Health. I'm a former ward chair of the Democratic City Committee, Ward 2, as well as serving now as the Vice President of the Cambridge NAACP, and I'm a past recipient of Cambridge's Peace and Justice Award. A community activist and organizer my entire adult life, and I formerly worked one of my most valuable jobs in the city's youth centers as a youth leader while I was finishing in college. So I'm glad to be with you today.
Great. You've been busy, Richard. So tell us why are you running for another term at Cambridge School Committee?
Yeah, many reasons, but I'll give you three. One is that when I left the school committee, I believe there was a lot of unfinished business. Some of the initiatives that I started, even though others would take credit for, like high-level math, particularly algebra, via before the 8th grade, is looking at excellent instruction in every classroom measured by student achievement, and also trying to really figure out what are the pathways for success for our young people as they navigate through the world. These are just a few of the issues that bring me back into the race for school committee. I believe that there's a void of leadership on the matters that are most important to the city's youth and young people. And I think that my voice, my maturity, my passion for education, as well as my clear understanding of the role of the school committee would be an asset in this moment now. There are moments in life, Jimmy, that require a certain type of leadership. And I believe now I can bring back the right leadership to steer the district in the right direction to make the Cambridge public school system take off from a good system to make it great.
Great. So tell us, what do you think the school system has been doing well, and where specifically would you need, where do we need improvement, and what would you like to be involved in?
Yeah. I don't like to sort of be a Debbie Downer about these things, but I do think that in our best moment, and I'll use my daughter as my prime example. She's my biggest flex around this, that my daughter had a wonderful education through the Cambridge Public Schools. She was bright, eager to learn. I always say she hit the genetic lottery, but the truth is she was a very, very good student, and she had good teachers who could guide her through her path, and she was able to navigate through the system and do well for herself. However, far too many kids do not have that experience. So one thing that the system does well is when it's at its best, it produces a student who is a rock star as an academic person. This race is really about making sure that we can reclaim that glory and restore the confidence in the Cambridge public schools that I had after my daughter graduated, at least for her. And the real conversation we need to have is, why are so many kids not realizing that success? And so I want to be part of a group of leaders who actively and strategically have the pragmatic courage to really move the district forward in the right direction.
Right. Well, I noticed that this year we got pretty good response, pretty good grades or marks or results from the MCAS, for example, but there's still an achievement gap, especially for kids of color and low-income students of all races and backgrounds. In terms of your top 3 to 5 priorities, would that be one of the priorities, trying to close that achievement gap? And what else would you be working on if that's the case?
1,000%. If anybody steps into this race and the achievement gap is not their number one priority, they are probably in the wrong race, Jimmy, just to be clear. I think that for me, it's the number one issue by far. And it's because there's a group of kids who will not realize success in life or in their academic experience in Cambridge Public Schools. And for me, that's unconscionable, and it's an indictment on our city. I've spoke about this ad nauseum at every turn. For me, the issues of the achievement gap stem in, for me, what I call the lack of excellent instruction in every classroom, coupled by the lack of social emotional support for some of our students, particularly now since the pandemic has ravaged these young people's lives. And then also really thinking about how we approach our curriculum in a rigorous way, looking at high standards and not necessarily worrying about high stakes. For me also, I think that this is an issue of low aim. I believe that it is okay in some people's eyes to see some young people fail, and they will use every excuse in the book to allow that to happen. I'm just not one of those folks. I believe that all kids can achieve, and I think that we ought to do our best to make sure that they are supported to do so. When I think about one of the things that I really want to do is I want to restore the confidence in the Cambridge Public Schools. The Cambridge Public Schools have a confidence issue in the community. In terms of the MCAS, one thing I would say is that the MCAS results that you saw in the Globe a couple weeks, what they showed us is that in some places for some students, they're back to the levels in achievement on the MCAS that they were prior to the pandemic. But it also shows that some of the problems that we have and the persistent gap in the achievement gap for other students had widened. So that's really not good news. And I'm not so sure what people are running around the city clapping for. In my eyes, I think that this shows us that more now than ever, we need strong leadership who can pay an attention and focus to the achievement gap in a way that's going to be strategic and surgical. And the greatest thing about this predicament for us, Jimmy, is that we have money. We have the resources to make this happen, and there's no longer any time for excuses. This is going to take a courageous conversation between the parents and teachers, the students, and the teachers union particularly, to think about how we're going to do things differently. Anybody who looks at this particular issue and thinks we can do the same thing and get better results is a fool. And I say that, and I stand on that statement.
Well, as you know, and I'm sure you're aware, and I assume you're supportive of it, the universal pre-K hopefully will help in that in those efforts, and the tutoring program will hopefully help in those efforts. I assume you're supporters of those two initiatives?
Yeah, Jimmy, it's great that you bring this up. One of the things that I've found on the campaign trail is that some people just don't understand that these things do not happen by accident. When I was a prior school committee member, which now has been some 5 years of distance, these are things that I was working on then actively. We had different subcommittees and committees of the whole between the city council and the school committee working particularly on universal pre-K for all kids. So while you see these middle schools and these beautiful buildings, and you see other folks standing up applauding the work that they did to make them happen, you can check my record on these particular issues and see where I stood in the face of adversity as it relates to these particular issues, whether it be the middle schools and the creation of the innovation agenda, or pounding home the fact that until we have excellent instruction in every classroom, our kids would be gypped of the possibility of an excellent education. The greatest thing about me is that I have a record to stand on. And so I look forward to bringing the case to the voters of Cambridge. I look forward to working with other leaders who are like-minded to change the direction of the Cambridge Public Schools. And most importantly, I look forward to having these deep and most profound conversations with the parents of these young scholars who I believe have the potential to be great people. And I think that Cambridge ought to support that greatness.
Okay, we're coming out to the end of the interview. By the way, folks, we just want to apologize. Richard is coming to us live from the Cambridge Y. So apparently there's people lifting weights in the background or whatever. So apologies for the sound in the background. But Richard, what about vocational education? Not everybody wants to go to college or cares about college, but those are great jobs. What do you think about that in terms of
it's a great question. I'll give you just three perspectives. One, when I came to school committee, and this is years ago, I think 9 of the 10 programs that we were offering were out of compliance by the state, meaning that they were not certified. I, working with others on the committee at the time, made it a priority and got all of those programs certified in short order. I yesterday was at a meeting at the Job Connector, the MIT Job Connector, hosted by MIT and some of the labor unions, talking to young people who had been failed by the Cambridge Public Schools, who were looking at those vocations as a probable way for them to find success in life. But most importantly, I look at my lived in life experience. The plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters that I know are doing extremely well in life, both financially and realizing their talents as skilled professionals in a world where, as you know, every corner you turn, there's either construction or some rehab being done. So I honestly believe that this is another viable pathway for many of our students. And I attest to you today that no one on the school committee will be a more vigorous supporter of the Bryn School of Technical Arts and all of that comes with that pathway for a career in the labor unions than Richard Harding. I stand by my record. I would submit that no other candidate has a record like mine around these issues.
Great. So, Richard, we have about 45 seconds left. Please just let people know, just a closing statement, and let people know where they can find you, where they can get a yard sign, donate, volunteer, whatever.
So,
please
look,
take it away.
my cell phone number is 857-383-0879. Call me if you need to. Vote Harding.com. But the most important thing is to reach out and have the conversation with your neighbors about supporting my candidacy for school committee. And I'll tell you this about me. One, I'm always going to speak the truth. I'm always going to level with the public and speak straight. And I'm always going to not only point out the problem, but look at a solution-based reality that will help us move the district forward. Thank you for your time. Vote Harding, November 7th.
Harding, November 7th, and it's voterichardharding.com. Is that right?
It's let me look at it because I haven't used it. Yep, it's it's voteharding.org, and it's my email is schools02139@yahoo for any other information or conversation you may want to have with me. Harding number one.
All righty. You can find Richard Harding at voteharding.org. Thanks so much, Richard. Continued success. Good luck. I'll see you on the campaign trail.
Jimmy, thank you, and thank your tech support. You always have a first-class operation going, and I thank you for bringing this to the voters. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.